Okay, well, I'll declare the Future Proof Implementation Committee meeting open. It's been a long while since our last meeting, way back in formal meeting in September. Just checking whether Nanaya Rawiri was online.
Doesn't appear to be yet.
Okay. So I was just looking for any office in terms of the opening karakia.
Hurry.
I can help you out, Bill, if you would like.
Okay, thank you.
E te hui, whaia te mātauranga ki marama, kia whai take ngā mahi katoa, tū maia, tū kaha, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou ia tātou katoa.
Okay, thanks, David. So, in terms of apologies, we've got Chair Russ, Mayor Ash, noting that this is the attendance of Matamata Piako, who are now members of the partnership. I've got Councillor Dave and also Mayor Allen. And there will be apologies for lateness for ministers, but I understand that Minister Mahuta may be an apology for the meeting in total. Any other apologies?
I believe Bill Cashmore's an apology as well, Bill.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks.
Sorry,
Andrew.
that's correct.
So I can have a mover and seconder for those apologies, please. I think got Mayor Jim and Mayor Paula. I'll put that. All those in favour, raise your hand. Against? Carried. Now, I just wanted to clarify with Dave's apology. I think, Martin, you're online as alternate.
Correct, yes, with Mayor Paula, correct.
Okay, no, that's fine. Now, coming to the Regional Council, we've got both Pamela and Angela online. So I just wanted to check which one is the alternate for today's meeting.
Sorry, Bill, we also have Councillor Castleraina Hodge, who is actually a member and she's in attendance.
Yes, no, I realise that.
Pamela is.
So Pamela is the alternate for today. Okay.
Angela will be our, if I leave at any time, it will be Angela then.
Okay, no, that's
Yes,
fine. Thank you. I just want to clarify that.
Cool, thank you.
And I also wanted to welcome Rangita to the implementation committee. So welcome. You've been on the, well, you are on the hearings panel. So great to see you around the implementation committee table. And just checking, is Neil on from Matamata Piako? No, okay. At our next meeting, we'll formally welcome Matamata Piako and also provide an opportunity for them to present, given they have newly joined the partnership. Okay, we'll now move to confirmation of the agenda. And what I just wanted to raise, I'm proposing we bring, and this is subject to timing, to bring Peter's implementation advisor report forward prior to moving into public excluded, if we have time before the ministers join us. So I wanted to note that, and then someone can move in second that we confirm the agenda. So I can have someone note on screen that. I've got Axel and who else? I've got Mayor Jim. So I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Disclosures of interest. Any matters that members wish to disclose in respect of items on today's agenda? Don't appear to be any. So we'll move to the minutes on page 6, and I've got two corrections. On the first page of the minutes on page 6, it should read Councillor Pamela Story, not
Yes,
Pamela Hodge. So
that's
with
right.
that amendment, and then on page big page 8 or of the minutes, item 7, and down the bottom in the first paragraph under members' comments or questions, the last sentence, at the very end, the words "the housing official participating" should be deleted to be replaced with the words "central government." So it reads, the minister also confirmed that in addition to a Waka Kotahi representative, there will also be a senior official from central government. Any other matters that members wish to raise in terms of amendments or clarifications? Don't appear to be any. So if I can have someone to move and second those minutes with those corrections.
Happy to move.
Okay. Seconder, Mayor Jim. Nothing further, I'll put that. All those raise a hand. In favour and no one against, declared passed. Okay. So we'll now move on to item 5, the report on Te Ture Whaimana, and there's the legal advice, and that's commences on page 10 with a covering report from Peter. And I'll just ask Peter in terms of a quick overview and any additional comments he may wish to make.
Thank you, Bill. We're not asking you to do anything in particular with this advice other than to recognise that it will be circulated widely and to encourage all of the partners to consider the advice and how their decisions recognise and reflect our obligations with respect to Te Ture Whaimana. And I suppose in terms of procuring this advice, it really arose out of two things. One was the key question as to how Te Ture Whaimana may be considered as a qualifying matter in terms of the government's legislation around medium density residential. And the second was the insights that came from the decisions by the Board of Inquiry into the water care consent application. And I suppose that's rather more significant than it might otherwise be, because the Chief Judge of the Environment Court sat as part of that tribunal. And therefore it's the most current jurisprudence, I suppose, as to how to interpret Te Ture Whaimana in the framework of the Resource Management Act. And the conclusion that the officials supporting Futureproof came to was it would be prudent for us to get some current advice about both of those things. That's what's presented to you here. And I suppose I'd just underscore the comments that are made on page 11 of the agenda, that this advice is a very timely reminder of the significance of Te Ture Whaimana and its primacy as a national policy statement within the catchment of the Waikato River. This is not a thing that anyone should take lightly, and quite clearly in the framework, if there is an inconsistency between it and any other national policy statement, Te Ture Whaimana prevails as the most important. The second really obvious thing for those that have been involved for longer than me is that betterment is a higher and different test than the normal resource management framework of avoid, remedy and mitigate. And it's important that we understand the difference in the test that applies. Thirdly, that the health of the awa is not just about the physiochemical properties of the water or the volume and flow of the water in the river. It's a far more holistic concept of health. And again, that means that we need to think quite broadly in the application of Te Ture Whaimana in our decision making and how we give effect to it. And the last piece, I suppose, is the companion advice around recognising or understanding how to apply Te Ture Whaimana as a qualifying matter with respect to medium density housing quite clearly sets out a framework for the evidentiary threshold that would be necessary to decide to do something that is of a lesser standard than the national standard for medium density residential. And whilst the advice is focused on the connection, I suppose, between water's infrastructure and the river, the same sequence and the same nature of test and evidentiary link would be necessary for the consideration of any matter relating to Te Ture Whaimana as a qualifying matter under the legislation. I'm very happy to answer any questions on the genesis of the advice, but there are people far more expert than I in where it came from and its significance in this meeting. And really, I saw this as an opportunity to reaffirm the understanding within the partnership of Te Ture Whaimana, its significance, and I suppose re-challenge all of the partners to think creatively about how we give effect to it in the work that we do together.
Thank you, Peter. So now I've got Mia Jim and then Rangita.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Peter, a question. I'm just wondering, and you mentioned that we have to take account, and when I say have to, I'm delighted, Te Ture Whaimana in our decision making. But do I understand that in terms of any planning documents under the RMA, it supersedes all of those documents, and in fact the national policy statements. But do I understand it correctly that this actually is a superior document to all legislation now that applies to the Waikato catchment?
So, Jim, it's my understanding that Te Ture Whaimana has the standing of a national policy statement, but it's first amongst equals as a national policy statement. But that means that it does not have more standing than primary legislation. So the Act itself is the highest point in the hierarchy, and then underneath that would come Te Ture Whaimana in terms of application and as a national policy statement, and then all other national policy statements to the extent that they are inconsistent with Te Ture Whaimana would be the third tier. And yes, that comes ahead of the regional policy statement and any district plan.
So there is no requirement for the Crown to take account of Te Ture Whaimana when they're introducing new legislation in terms of acts?
Or there's a different mechanism that is significant, and that goes to the settlement legislation and the accord that sits alongside that, which is the undertaking that the Crown has given that it will not subsequently legislate in a way that undoes the treaty settlement.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Going to be some interesting debates.
Okay, so I've got Rangita and then Parikawhia, then Nanaya, in that order.
Tēnā tātou katoa, e rauranga tirama, kua hui mai nei ki tēnei wā. Tēnā koe, Mr. Chair. I am fully supportive of what you have reiterated to everybody today, Peter. And I want to lay a korowai before us today as a reminder that Te Ture Whaimana is reflective of Waikato Tainui's vision, objectives and strategies for the Waikato River. I also want to acknowledge that all of us in this hui are ki kaitiaki, guardians of the awa. And, you know, there are many uses. We have many uses that we want to be able to utilise the awa for. So as kaitiaki, we need to remind ourselves of what that means. I also want to acknowledge that Te Ture Whaimana is about restoring and protecting the health and well-being of the Waikato River. And because this ensures that this generation and future generations will be able to enjoy it, to enjoy our awa in the future. And also just want to lay that same korowai that Waikato Tainui considers that Te Ture Whaimana can be used as a guide for all of us in terms of activities on it. So those were just some comments wanting to support your kōrero, Peter, this afternoon. Tēnā koe, Mr. Chair.
Okay, kia ora. Perry Kawhia.
E rauranga tirama tēnā hoki koutou katoa, tēnā koe e rangita mō tō kupu kōrero i tēnei wā, so e tautoko ana ngā mihi. Just very briefly, I wanted just to tautoko the kōrero that has been laid down from Rangita, and also you, Peter, for summarising the advice. I actually thought the advice was actually good. It was a good piece of work, and but one thing that did stand out for me as another takeaway for me, Peter, was the reference to undertaking or requiring substantive evaluation, and it references around page 24 and status of planning instruments giving effect to Te Ture Whaimana. I think that's as I read through the advice from Mr. Muldowney, I thought that resonated with me as well. So that's really more of a comment. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Nanaya.
Kia ora mai tātou. E mihi ana ngā mihi ngā kōrero ki roto tēnei kaupapa o tātou, o te rā tēnei te mihi. Through the chair, Peter, thank you very much for presenting that and in terms of context to do with the legalities of things, but there's more to it in terms of the visions and strategy pertaining to Te Ture Whaimana. We as Waikato people look at the enhancement of the river. Restoration is only part of it. We have to look at it, how do we enhance the river to make things more practical, to endure the river, to rejuvenate itself. And that comes under a number of things pertaining to Māori. Now you got the explanation pertaining to context of English. The explanation you need to find out now through the chair by talking to the right people, not only who put their document together, but the ones who continue to put strategies and visions in place for our river. And I'm talking about te ao Māori, Mātauranga Māori, Māori tuku ihoa, Matariki. Those are the particular concepts that you must adhere of for our people to use this particular legal document, I have to say, in the right manner. And the only way that can happen is making sure you will follow those procedures pertaining to Māori. You've only heard the English side of it. You need to understand the Māori side of it. Kia ora mai tātou.
Okay. Kia ora, Nanaya. Any other comments or questions in terms of Te Ture Whaimana? Don't appear to be any. But I'd just like to reiterate Harry's comments in terms of the opinion from Hoffman. I thought it was a well-formed opinion to provide to. Okay.
I could say something, but I can't figure out how to put my hand up.
Okay. Paula.
It's been a long day on Zoom, and I've been on Zoom, and now I'm on Teams. I'm like, oh, I don't know where the hand is. Sorry, everyone. Kia ora koutou. Right. Just noting for the record that, of course, I'm wearing my Mayor of Hamilton hat in Future Proof, not my co-chair of the Waikato River Authority. Having said that, I acknowledge the commentary that has been shared and supported by my colleagues on this meeting. the Waikato River Authority is certainly entering into in good faith discussions with Waikato Tainui, recognising that that's where the settlement was generated from in terms of the next steps, but it was too soon to say what those conversations will deliver. But putting my mayor hat back on, I'm really pleased to say that as one of the matters that informs our part review of the district plan and also shapes our thinking about growth and where growth can go in the city and how it can go, because we know we're going to have to grow. Te Ture Whaimana has a key place in that debate. So in a way, that's pretty significant, because many years ago, not that many years ago actually, it would not have been the case to have had that document being formally recognised for the power that it has in law, let alone going to the next step, which I think, Bill, you were commenting on, others were commenting on, which is the implementation of it. So one thing to have it, the other thing is to apply it, and how do you meaningfully apply it across your core work. So just wanted to give you some comfort from a Hamilton City Council perspective that we were looking through some very amending mechanisms, including the district plan, to how we can give effect to Te Ture Whaimana in the work that we do. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. You, Paula? And at the top of your screen, you should see a reactions line. If you press that, the hand will come up, hopefully. Okay, there's nothing further. We have two recommendations there, and certainly to receive the advice, and then two, in terms of partners, both individually and collectively, in terms of consideration and how the decisions will recognise and reflect the obligations. If I can have a mover and seconder for those recommendations, please. Thanks, Rangita. If I can have a seconder, got Mayor Jim. If there's nothing further, I'll put that. All those in favour, if you can show your hands. Okay, against, carried. So we will now move, in terms of our timing, to the last item that is in the open, and that's Peter's report, which commences on page 40. And Peter, you wish to make a quick comment around future development strategies.
Thank you, and I'll be brief. That most of the report deals with things that are immediately in front of us in terms of completing the future-proof strategy and making decisions in response to submissions, and notes the continuing and significant amount of government change that's underway. No sooner will we have finished the future-proof strategy than we will need to embark on the future development strategy that's a requirement of the National Policy Statement for Urban Development. So I suppose really I just wanted to highlight that there's something of a treadmill that does not stop, and perhaps encourage everyone to think about completing the current future-proof strategy is not necessarily the need for absolute perfection, and that there are some matters that may be best picked up in the FDS that immediately follows. So I just wanted to sow that seed today. Otherwise, very happy to answer any questions in relation to the work programme.
And Peter's also provided that advice to the future-proof hearings panel workshops as we've been working through the various submissions. Okay, open for comments or questions. Don't appear to be any. If I can take you to page 40, there's a recommendation to receive Peter's report. So if I can't see anyone at the moment.
Happy to move, Bill. Axel.
Okay, thanks, Axel. If I can have a seconder for that, please.
Happy to second, Pamela.
Okay, thanks, Pamela. So if nothing further, I will put that. All those in favour of receiving it, if you can indicate on screen with your hand. Against? Carried. So that completes the open agenda, and we've now moved to agenda item 6 and the resolution to exclude the public, and those reasons are outlined in the agenda and on screen. So, Mayor Paul, are you happy to move public excluded? Thank you. Harry Carfair, seconded. Okay, I'll put that. All those in favour, show your hand. Against? Carried. Now, Lyndall, you just want a pause in terms of the